saying sound check. I'm kind of hoping that there's people on to actually hear us. Go full FS1.
Right, is we on?
We're on, yeah. I'm just waiting for someone to confirm that we're on, because I have not put my Twitch up. He can hear me. Can you hear Daniel? Is Daniel sitting in?
Yeah, well, I coughed. Hear the cough?
Look at Niall. Literally copying and pasting. Sweet. Bam, bam, bam. Boom, pts,
Right.
boom, pts. This is not The Herd with me, not Colin Cowherd, and Daniel No Joy Taylor. So, first of all, we're going to start with the stories of the week. Episode 3. I can't believe so many of these stories. I mean, every time we go to plan an episode, it's like, okay, we've got one thing we want to talk about and we don't know what the other two things are going to be, and it's so natural, they just pop up. I mean, this league is nothing if not one for producing stories. So we're 3 games in. Adam's about to jettison off to Cancun for the earliest bye week in football history. We'll get to it later, why I think it's a good thing for Adam to have a bye so early. But it means we've all played 3 games, and this is the last time for about 18 weeks that we're all going to have played the same amount of games.
Yeah, sorry, you're going to hear me breathing a lot, using an inhaler at the minute. Just get used to it. Right.
just make your pace.
Yeah, that's not me apologising, that's just me notifying people.
Cool. So this is the only time of the season until week 11 or 12 maybe that we've all played the same amount of games. So you've played 3 games predominantly across the league. You've had a good game, you've had a bad game, and you've had a bang average game. So we're going to tell you which game you are, because you've all played 3 games, and we think that we can narrow it down to one game as to like who are the 2023, what is it now, New Orleans Saints or the Dallas Cowboys. Like who are you? So we'll start with the Saints first. If you weren't going to watch any of their season, this is a good segment actually for people that don't want to watch John's games. So if you didn't want to watch the full season of one team, if you just wanted to watch the Saints to know how they are this year, you would watch them beating Dallas 27-23. They were okay.
They were not as good as Dallas were bad.
Yeah, they were better than their opponents. We've seen more of the Saints punter than usual. It's good that we see his punter though, because that's the general thing to do when you're 4th and 23. That wasn't aimed at anybody. But Adam won a close one. He 14 pointed the middle of the game, 7 before the half, 7 after the half. Love looked pretty good. Kamara looked pretty good. Anzalone was class. It's literally, that's the snapshot of their season, beating Dallas 27-23. Chicago, if you wanted to just skim the rest of Chicago's season and wait to the postseason, Chicago would be the 21-9 win at Miami. The Bears can never score more than 21, but that's enough to win most CPU games. They didn't allow a touchdown, which is kind of a big deal in the sense that it's not really for Niall. Like, I think Nick Stoops did it once this year, and Nick has done it twice. But really, Niall is the only one that, like, multiple times, 5 or 6 times, will not allow a touchdown to the CPU. Like I say, it sounds, just don't let the CPU score on you. I mean, if you look at the rest of the results,
the CPU are fairly easy to beat, but not letting them score on you is not easy.
Yeah, I mean, they're all big-ish. Apart from one field goal was like a chip shot, but most of them are big-ish field goals as well.
It takes 2 deep ends, and then they just run it in.
So that's the snapshot of the Chicago season. They're struggling a wee bit on offense. It's enough to beat CPU teams, and their defense, I mean, I like the 2 pick sixes against Washington, but you're not going to get that every week. So I think the holding Miami to 9 is the best snapshot of this D at its weekly best. James Cameron in Denver. I have yours as a 21-14 win over Kansas City in week 1. That's what happens when you run the ball and pass, not when you need to. I mean, Daniel had suggested your game against John is what you are this year.
Because I think it's going to happen again in the title game, that's why.
But they're both pretty similar. Run the ball 2/3 of the time and pass 1/3. don't run the ball to death and don't be able to pass, and don't go into the game like you did in Cleveland and go, now we're up by 20 points, let's just throw a heap of interceptions. Stoops, if you wanted to see Stoops' Cardinals in a nutshell, it's the 14-17 loss to Tampa Bay. Just an absolute nail biter that came right down to the end, and there was more Cardinals mistakes than there was Cardinals good points, but it's like 55-45 split. Like, he lost by a field goal to the best CPU team on the road. But that sums him up. He's not going to get the 13-3 every week that he got against Atlanta, and with the Minnesota defeat, like, it was by 15 plus points in the end. It was a one-score game. That's the scoreline was flattering towards the Vikings. James Earls, the game that sums you up is the 13-27 loss to the Giants. It's just cover 2, and it has been for 3 games so far, and it beat the CPU, and it lost to 2 player teams. And last year and the year before, you always go 13-3 because you don't have that many player games, and the cover 2 beats the CPU. You're the only team in history to go 13-3 and get a first round bye and not make the title game twice. That's what you are. That's your snapshot right now. You have 13 games to change your destiny, but another 13-3 season and winning the East and just getting beat by whoever turns up to play in divisional weekend is not progress. Zach, your game that sums you up is 33-14 against Washington. I feel like you're going to, in a majority of games this year, you're going to score more than the 28, the 4 touchdowns, give or take. You'll score over 30 points. You allowed 14 to Washington, blah, blah, blah. Terry McLaurin did really well, but, like we touched on in the Bears game, it's not going to be enough to beat a solid player team. So 33-14 is... I would bet that 33-14 is a scoreline that you're going to have more often than not, give or take, for the rest of the season. Comfortable win. Nick, your Raiders game is the 31-21 win over Seattle, because you didn't allow a touchdown in your first 2 games, and while that looked like it was becoming a trend, we told everybody that it was not. It doesn't matter how good the team is, you will not stop the CPU scoring a touchdown all season on you. But the MVP came to play. There is a Seattle player in my fantasy team of the week. I thought Seattle balled out. It's the same Seattle that played Adam, except they had better play calling against Nick. And instead of withering and falling back to the mean, Nick won 3 games in a row for the first time ever. AFC is on alert. So John's Houston, this was so easy. Like, we talked about this for about 6 seconds. John's game, if you want to snapshot his whole season, is the 28-21 win against the Chargers. Don't try for 3.5 quarters, get down to a nail biter in the 4th, win by a score, make sure that Watson has at least 1.5 fumbles. He has to lose half of them. The game is relatively close. I mean, it's not that close, you see, whenever you actually watch it, because they had a kick return touchdown, which John never gives up. John usually leads the league in kick return touchdowns. To give one up was quite funny. But put it this way, there's 8 teams in this league, and if 6 of them were in the position John was in going into the 4th, they lose because they're not good enough. But there's never any doubt. I think he was down like, what was it, 21-14 at one point. I really don't care. He's going to win the game. That's the snapshot. I might even take my own advice and just watch that game every week and imagine it's John's game as he rolls to 15-1. So that's everybody's 3 games in. We gotta do their top receiver tandems now. Now, just to clarify a couple of things, when we talk about receiver tandems, we're talking about year 1 and year 2. That's your boundary receivers.
Yes, we are not including slot receivers.
We're not including slot receivers or tight ends, because we're talking about perimeter guys. If you have any questions or queries or even complaints about how we've handled this, don't message us.
Yeah, we don't care.
Like, this is what's happening. I will do one for slot receivers and tight ends.
We will get really bored around week 9 and rank the slot receivers in the league,
who all have a bunch of catches and a bunch of yards and a bunch of touchdowns, because it's like all of the
and
league's
John
offense.
will finish bottom because John throws to his 1 and his 2 every play.
But historically, if I look at his 1 and his 2, whoever the team is, if the 1 and 2 is performing well, they play on title weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, I have the history
It's very
here.
hard. It's very hard to have a great receiving pairing and not be successful.
The first 3 years of the league were basically Pat's Jag. Well, it was literally Pat's
You'd have
Jags.
to have an absolutely wank defense to have like 2,000-yard receivers and not go anywhere.
But like their Patriots Jags first 3 years of the AFC title game. That was Brandon Cooks, Michael Floyd. Back when Edelman was young enough to play on the outside, and he had, jog my memory here, Alan Robinson was there.
Alan Hearns.
Alan Hearns. What do you call the other one? The one that Justin Blackman.
Yeah.
He was kicked out of the league for
Everything.
DUIs amongst other things, but he was class in Madden. You can't drive in Madden. Class. And I don't need to talk about Adams' NFC title teams. He had Michael Thomas. He had Brandon Cooks himself for one of those. What do you call the other one? Was Marquez Colson might have been there for the first one. Just good perimeter guys.
Bears defeated Saints still looks weird, doesn't it?
It does. But then look at, what do you call it? Patriots Bengals.
Yeah.
Whenever I played you had AJ Green and John Ross. Perimeter
and Tyler
guys.
Boyd had 3,000-yard receivers.
But he's a slot guy. If that's what you've just said. If Tyler Boyd had 1,000 yards and you couldn't get the ball to Green or Ross, you wouldn't have reached the title game.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I didn't make the fucking title game because of Tyler Boyd. John Ross breaking touchdown record.
And then John last year, Texans,
Rolling
Broncos.
out left,
But look at
forward.
the Broncos. They had Sutton and Metcalf.
Yeah.
Proper 1 and 2.
There's the right amount of orange in that league MVP category.
I think MVPs is for another day.
Beautiful ginger man.
So
Beautiful concussed ginger COVID man.
Daniel and I have ranked the 1-2 punches. By the way, we'll go through. I always, whenever Adam sends the schedule out, I have everybody from 1 to 8. So it's Adam at 1 and John at 8, left to right on the schedule. So this is not the ranking yet. We'll get to the ranking. So your eligible receivers for this are MT and Hasselwood of the Saints, Higgins and Rigor of Chicago. For Denver, it's Cortland Sutton and DK Metcalf. For Arizona, it's Christian Kirk and Isabella. For Dallas, it's Amari Cooper and Laviska Shenault. And I know people will see Shenault line up in the slot a lot, but it's technically not
By the way,
the
to
slot.
anybody who hasn't checked Facebook, Taysom Hill's starting to do again. Saints.
Oh, bloody hell.
James Winston doesn't have any offensive packages designed for him. He's the backup now.
That's a breaking news story, actually. I kind of want to deviate to that, but also you've already fully covered it by saying Taysom Hill's starting.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Nah, I'll go and get him in fantasy. You get Nick Foles for fuck's sake. He's a bye week.
Do you want me to, do you guys, do you want to see why we call Daniel No Joy Taylor? You know the way you think you're not playing against the quarterback in fantasy this week?
I am.
Who?
Ross Jones.
Aye, but do you know who his quarterback is?
He's traded for Big Ben.
Yeah, I can't believe that.
No, I'm happy enough with it. I'd rather play against the quarterback than I'd rather lose to a team that's traded for a quarterback than beat a team that doesn't have one.
Do you know who he traded with to get that quarterback?
His brother.
His brother. You know, if you and I made a trade, it would come down on us like a ton of bricks.
Oh, well, that's because Dave's a dick. Sure. But Dave knows that. Like,
He does. He must know. Anyway, Chenault lines up a lot as what you might think is the slot, but actually he's a flanker that's aligned in the slot. And that's because James plays with two
Ryan's a
tight ends.
flanker.
If anybody wants to do that, you'll go 1 and 2 through your first 2 games. So for the Giants, it's Darius Slayton and Shepard. For the Raiders, it's Robinson and Dorsett. And for Houston, it's Hopkins and Fuller. So the way we've ranked them is in tied 7th place is Slayton and Shepard and Higgins and Rigor. In 6th is Kirk and Isabella. In 5th is Sutton and Metcalf. 4th is Cooper and Chenault. Tied for 2nd is Robinson and Dorsett and Michael Thomas and Hasselwood. And obviously first is Hopkins and Fuller. Now, we did that last night watching TNF. We just went off memory, didn't look at stats or anything, just that's the guys. Like, if Daniel and I were to come back into the league, that's the receiver partnerships that we would want to draft. Then I went through the stats.
For me, it was the receiver partnership I wouldn't want to come up against.
Fair, actually, yeah, that's a good one. Then I got the stats from Adam this morning, and the top 4 that we'd chosen all have 2 receivers in that receiver stats list that Adam's put up. The Broncos had 1 receiver. Chicago, Denver, Arizona, and the Giants didn't have one. And I don't know how that's possible. Not to defend them all, I'm only defending Arizona because I believed Christian Kirk would have had enough catches to get in. Slayton has certainly played well. Higgins did well in week 1 and got in fantasy team of the week and has sort of been a non-factor since then. Ridley catches that. I mean, Ridley's not one of the top 2, but he plays slot and he catches that silly slot corner that they can't cover. It's just like run out with the tight end, but the guy's faster. If you don't believe me, here Trey Burton and Riley Ridley both have 11 catches and both average about 17 yards per grab and both have a touchdown. And I would be amazed if both weren't on the exact same route. For Denver, like I say, Metcalf's in there, but Cortland Sutton's been a relative afterthought. And for the Giants, Gill has the most yards of anybody in the league.
And he's a slot receiver.
And this more
double the touchdowns of the second best Michael Thomas.
He has more. What do you call it?
And Robinson as well.
He has more touchdowns than Noah Fant, Will Fuller, and DeAndre Hopkins combined. John is triggered. So focusing on the top 4 receiver tandems, Houston has the most receptions with 29. Then it's Saints, Cowboys, Raiders, Saints, Raiders, Cowboys, 18, 17, 16, all largely the same. The Saints, I liked Hasselwood for the fumble recovery, which isn't something a receiver should be doing, but at the same time, when you look at the stats, he's had more grabs than Michael Thomas. And in terms of receiving yardage, Houston have 676 between their top 2, and the Saints are only about 140 behind that. It's not far off.
Yeah.
Oakland are about 200 yards off the Saints, and somehow Dallas have the same amount of receptions between the two.
I wouldn't be annoyed if I was Gill though.
Further 100.
I mean,
no, neither would I.
John Ross was going to make the Hall of Fame off playing slot, and nobody in the league ever had a problem with that. So
we're not. You see, that's the thing.
An issue.
We're not criticising Gill. We're just telling Zach that if Gill keeps up at this pace, he'll win the East. But if he can get Slayton and Shepard to get to some pace along with him, he'll go to the title game. That's the difference.
Historically, players in the league love that as well. So
I cannot wait.
I can't see anybody catching a slot 9 touchdown ever being an issue.
Gill is set to break the record. I know it won't happen because it can't happen over 16 games, but his yards per reception are 45.5. He goes half the length of the field per catch.
Yeah, Michael Thomas 35. That's impressive. DK Metcalf 38. There's some big yards per catch there.
DK Metcalf is not as impressive because he's only got 6 grabs. I know Gill is 9 and Thomas is 9, but Metcalf's all seem to come in one drive.
Zach Ertz is probably only 4. Where's he?
No, it's 11 actually.
Yards per. He's a wee prick though, isn't he? I really don't like Zach Ertz. Don't like Travis Kelce either. I know he's not on the list. Just don't like him.
In terms of touchdowns, John's top 2 have 5. So do Nick's top 2. And Adams' top 2. And Cooper and Chenault have combined for 4 touchdowns, which is the same as Allen Robinson. I really like Dorsett. Allen Robinson's doing class, but Dorsett is such a compliment to him.
I don't know. He's 50 yards a game is not bad, but
Dorsett is not a million miles off what DK Metcalf is doing. Consider what they both spent to acquire those guys.
True.
So other guys for player teams that we didn't mention, like I said, Gill's there. Noah Fant is the leading Broncos receiver. Who else? We touched on Burton and Ridley having the exact same stats. Mark Andrews is a great signing for Stoops. Unfortunately, the other 52 players aren't playing up to scratch.
Yeah, he doesn't have a touchdown, but that's because he doesn't catch them at his own 40 and go.
He would need to play corner for the Vikings. Chris Herndon has an insane number of catches per production, really, for that Cowboys offense. I know they play with multiple tight ends, but they're usually
too many. Tight ends.
Yes and
Usually
no. I've got stats to support that it's a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah, well, 1 and 2. There's a stop.
Evan Ingram's plugging away. Darren Waller. See, this is what I'm saying. This is why I like Nick this year, because his perimeter guys are doing really well. But look, there's Darren Waller, who has similar, a little bit less production than Fant, but that's because he throws to wideouts as well.
Yeah.
And they've all got a touchdown as well. Kamara obviously is not going to lead the receiving charts. This isn't the real life Saints, but he's plugging away as an extra piece there. More so than the tight end in New Orleans. And Zay Jones, Super Bowl winner. is still doing really well as the slot because you can run that weird post from the slot. Well done, John. People who aren't on this list that I expected are really. I really did expect Rashard Higgins of the Bears to be on this list somewhere. Did he just play week one? Did I envision him in the other games and he didn't play? I definitely
No.
seen him catch passes. Christian Kirk and Mike Gesicki, and I know that Gesicki's are more flash plays rather than production plays. Like he's still doing well, but he's not going to rack up like 5 catches. He's going to get one catch and makes you go, ooh. So the only wide receivers in the league that have double-digit catches that play in the perimeter are Fuller, Hopkins, Hasselwood, and Allen Robinson, and they've all got a score. And Texans, Saints, Raiders might not be the most sexy pick for the title games, but just give me another 2 weeks in the Raiders. Give me another 2 weeks, and we'll see where the Raiders are. Because I am so close to throwing everything behind them, as will be showing in the power rankings this week. So we need to talk about contract re-signings as well. There's been 3 of them this week. By the by, just while Daniel gets those up,
2 seconds.
it's like Joe Rogan. Daniel, see what we've got there on contract re-signings.
Jimmy, can you pull up the contract returns for me?
Can you pull those up for
Shut
me?
the fuck up, Jimmy. Right, David Andrews, 3 years, 26 million.
I love that deal because I think David Andrews is probably the second, if not best, centre in football.
Well, the way you should look at it is that Ryan Kelly, just below, got a 3-year deal on 32 million.
It's a good deal.
So there's not much between David Andrews and Ryan Kelly. And David Andrews on 6 million less.
It's a good player.
It's a good deal for a good player.
Good player and a good deal.
Saquon Barkley, 5 years, 52 million. That's 10 million a year for a running
That's
back.
not a lot for someone who's going to win you
He's a good
games by
player.
himself. Yeah. We're not doing
I don't
Russian
know, I
stats
think-
this week, but I like.
I think Zach
Barkley
would maybe have liked Barkley's contract to come up next year,
Maybe.
because then you've maybe got Herbert as an
'Cause
MVP
now
candidate,
he-
and you're looking at Barkley like, yeah, you're a really good piece of the offense.
But he's got Barkley in a contract year while he's trying to figure out the passing. I think, see, for being 3-0 in your division, Zach is playing the juggling, balancing act
Roquan Smith,
really well.
9 million a year.
That's more than I thought it was when I first looked. It's a 5-year deal?
For 45 million, yeah.
This is a hard one for me. I like the deal, kind of. I love the player, and I mean, I think he's probably Niall's best defender.
Just reading through the group there. Have you hit your head, James?
Do we?
That's what? That's the resigning.
No, I'm thinking about the Roquan Smith one because I think he's probably Niall's best defender. Maybe because he's on baby Tylenol.
Yeah, I've just put baby down on the group.
Yes. No, I think he's Niall's best defender, but I just don't know if my outside linebacker is going to win me a big
It says
playoff
middle
game.
linebacker on him,
Does he play middle for Niall?
which is a worry because he's a better pass rusher than he is a coverage guy.
See, I treat him as an outside linebacker.
'Cause that's where
He's
he should be.
He might be a middle. He's not an inside linebacker to me because he plays so much of that cover 3 zone when he, prototypically he is a run stuffer. But you can't spend that much money on a run stuffer. But he does. He's done really well in the pass game this year. And I know you need to keep your best weapons, but I don't. My only question with it is it's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, he's worth it, but so was Eddie Jackson and Kyle Fuller. At one point, Kyle Fuller was.
Eddie Jackson's definitely the best of all those players.
Right, so if you're building a big, super scary monsters in midway defense, why did you not want him? Like for me, he needs help on offense, and don't get me wrong, Niall has salary to spend for the first time in a long time, which is good. But I'm used to Niall making one signing and that being the pot dry. So if you still got money for offensive players, I really like this deal.
It's a lot of money, but he's 3-0, and he went to the Super Bowl last year, and he wants to. I'd say he wants to keep that team together.
Elk mate.
Lots of that. Right, next.
Oh, by the way, just to close that segment, if anybody has any other contract re-signings that are coming up or not going to work or have worked,
Stick them in the group.
stick them in the group or PM us and we can announce them here or whatever. But let's just keep us involved in the contract signings. So 3-word game time. This is going to be relatively quick. It was quite a cut and dry week. The good teams in the league won mostly, and the bad teams seem to lose. So Saints beat Dallas 27-23, and my three-word game for that is good bye week. We complain every year about early buys. I like this buy because if I'm Adam's offense, I feel like we're performing 7.5 out of 10.
Adam has just said Eric McCoy and CJ Gardner-Johnson are opening negotiations in the bye week.
Eric McCoy, another person who could be considered one of the better centers in the league. Really like him. But I feel like this buy comes at the right time because Adam's on offense, its performance 75%. Should be 100%. They could do so much better. I think Hasselwood still see what's going on with the Bears offense and everybody's still teething problems and trying to bet in. That's happening for one receiver in the Saints and the tight end a little bit as well. If they can get that nailed down, they're fine. But it's a good bye week for Adam to experiment with some shit. Coming out of the bye as well, he's got Cleveland, who have gone to overtime with every player team they've faced this year. Weird stat. So for the Bears beat Washington 28-3. Sorry for any Falcons fans listening. The three-word game I have for that is 2 pick sixes. As I said earlier, that's not going to come round every week, and if it doesn't come round here, it's a 14-3 game, which is like the 14-7 before. I know we've talked about teething problems with a new playbook, but it's still the same sport, and it's literally, apart from Epps, the tight end who's been added, is it not 99% the same personnel as last year?
Better now,
right?
Like,
because they've got the same people. The quarterback's coming back.
They've got a really good team.
The three receivers and the tight end have come back. The running backs have all come back. I mean, they've all played at least a game before, but it's not like the running backs aren't the issue because I never see the running backs do anything apart from the odd screen pass now. Denver three-word game, and everybody expected me to come down and destroy James Cameron for this, but I'm saying more PvP ready. I felt like when he came out of that overtime game, I'm like, he scored 28 points and he was up by a load. Yes, he threw 5 interceptions, but if you think he's going to throw 5 interceptions against you, you're wrong. He's just testing the bathwater a little bit with this team, and I feel offensively against the Browns was trying to make up for how beige he was against the Texans. It's not that I didn't like the Broncos coming out of the Texans game, but I kind of love them now coming out of the Browns game. They're definitely more PvP ready.
They were absolutely dick in the fourth quarter against the Browns. If they play like they did in the fourth quarter at any other in any PvP game this year, they will get absolutely rinsed.
But I don't think they're gonna at all.
Oh well, then they're going to win the Super Bowl. Yeah,
brilliant.
But they're not.
Arizona lost 21-6 to Minnesota.
It's every week.
Lol cow of the week, because this is Minnesota's first win since
For fuck's sake, cow of the week is pretty much the best way to go about it.
Ever. The Vikings have never, ever beaten a player team, and Niall's been in the division for some time, and John was in the division as well. And the Vikings had a player head coach, and they've never beaten a player team until now.
A couple of years as well.
Yeah.
But
my three-word game for
Arizona
Stoops.
just need to sit down and flip the shit up, because what they're doing right now is not working at all.
Arizona's three-word game is win the West. Screen out all the noise, Stoops. Don't worry about Zach or Adam or Niall, because you're probably not going to see them unless you win the West. I know you're 1-2, so you could go 14-2, but the general consensus is that you're not going to flip this and go 14-2.
But can the Jets not look 7-9 in real life?
Yeah,
Like
they're not going to.
I think everybody's chucking a fiver on that. Like,
but you're one game out of a game and a half. A game.
I gotta check the odds on the Jets to go 7-9.
Please do. Stoops, you're one game out of the division lead. Your next two games are San Francisco and Seattle. You cannot lose divisional games. Stoops has actually called in a bit of an offensive guru to help him out this week. The ex-Raiders and Patriots head coach. No, it's not James Ross. But no,
How do you bet
Arizona.
on Team Tracker? Sky Bet you can do, can't you?
Yeah, you should be able to. Yeah.
I want to put a pound on the Jets going 7-9, and then obviously be disappointed on Sunday.
Disappointed when you don't get a pound.
Yeah.
But no, Stoops is sticking with the playbook, sticking with the personnel, the players. But he's just looked into some nooks and crannies in the playbook with some assistance at things he
Can you
possibly
only bet on the
didn't know
AFC's
before.
outright winner?
Oh, Sky bet is pretty shit.
shit.
The NFL. Right, Dallas 3-words game.
Quickly, John in the group, link me a site that I can bet on the regular season record for the Jets.
You might have to go try Paddy Power. Dallas, your 3-word game. Please remain calm. You've lost 2 games, but at the moment you're beating all of the CPU teams and losing all of the player games. You're up against Philly next, the only team you've actually beaten, and Detroit, who can't beat Nile. So you're going to go 3-2 into the bye. Then you're going to play Nile, who you can't beat. So you're going to be 3-3 with quite a long stretch. You cannot drop any of these next 2 CPU games because Nile winning is about as nailed on as Stoops doing something mental every week. So please remain calm. There's no panic stations yet, but you got to get some things right quick. Giants beating Philadelphia, 3-word game, not a fluke. Right, any of this whispers that Zach just got really easy schedule to start the year, or he's just spamming one route, it's not a fluke. We've watched people spam one route before. He's put up 27 points plus in all of his games. He put up 42 against Philly, and really he could have put up 50. Only Zach Ertz had 48 catches in one game and ate up the clock. This Giants offense is for real. This Giants defense is what I said it was last year. Sneakily good. The Raiders, 3-word game for Seattle. 3 games straight. Did not win back-to-back games in his first season as head coach. Has now won 3 in the bounce. And now plays in his own mini Super Bowl against James Cameron. If he wins that, it's party time for the Raiders. Houston, you beat LAC this week. And my 3-word game is back to basics. Just back to a basic John game. It's so annoying when you look at his week 1 and he put up 40 against Indy and it was bloody class and he dropped his banner and it was amazing. But since then it's been 1-score games, late wins against teams that he shouldn't even be boxing with. Power rankings time, unless you have anything to add.
I can't find anywhere to bet in the Jets. But yeah. Alright.
Jamie, pull up some sites that we can bet in the Jets.
Power rankings.
Shut up, Jamie.
See, Cleveland.
So my power rankings from 10 up to 1. In 10, 10th spot is 2-1 Believeland. They were what I thought they were. They put up serious points against the player team, albeit through 5 interceptions. But 5 interceptions is enough to get back into the game, but they took them to overtime and they could have won. They're down 3 from last week. Tennessee is down 1 from last week. They're in 9th place. They're 2-0. I don't have their week 3 result, but there was nobody that impressed me to overtake them off where I thought they were in the first 2 weeks. Up 1 spot from last week is the 3-0 Bears. They're an interesting team, whereas anemic as their offense can be at times, the defense is enough to keep them in this top 10 alone. It's a good defense. It's taking away. It's literally it scored as many points as his offense last week, which is an indictment on the offense. But the defense is for real. Play them at your own peril. The Rams are down from 3 to 7th because they lost the game this week. They still have control of the West until Stoops plays them. He plays them twice late in the season. New entrant this week in at number 6 is the 2-1 Broncos. Like I said, I think their defense is passable. They only allowed, was it 3 or 7 to Cleveland this week? Then threw 5 interceptions, and Cleveland had gifts of field position. When Cleveland had to drive the length of the field, Denver's D held up. Denver's offense is also scary when it's at its best. Up 5 from last week, Baltimore is probably the best team in the AFC that isn't controlled by a user. They're 3-0 with a divisional win. The Giants are down 1 to 4th, 3-0 in the division. They look brilliant, but they literally do look brilliant. The top 4 teams at the moment are my teams for title weekend. So Zach moving from 3 down to 4 shouldn't see this as a bad thing, but I had to move Oakland up 1. I think Oakland are hot. Like, I really like Oakland right now. I mean, they're competing well in all phases of the game.
I think what's really impressive about Oakland is that they don't look like Oakland last year.
Right.
It's a bit like the Joe Biden thing. Are Oakland really, really good this year, or are they just better than the other option?
It's a weekly power rankings though.
Or were Oakland last year terrible?
Like, if I was doing a season review, the Giants have done better than Oakland. The Giants have beaten a player team. But this week, the Giants smoked an Eagles team that nobody really cares about. Oakland beats Russell Wilson, who came close enough to beating Adam. And that's a game that Oakland just doesn't win last year. number 2, the 3-0 Saints, and number 1, the 3-0 Texans. The Saints are at 2. The Saints could have been at 1. I just didn't think that the win was convincing enough over James. I know there was lag and it was awkward, which is part of the reason why I just stayed pat with the top 2. But John's precariously at the top there at 1. Like, Adam goes to 1. I think if the Chargers beat him, but at the moment, I still think John wins head to head against Adam, but it's bloody close.
John's a different player against player teams than he is against CPU though.
Yeah, but if John keeps up with these 4-point last minute wins over the CPU, he's going to drop in the power rankings to like 6. And I know the power rankings don't mean anything, but they do to John. It will bug him if he drops. And that's why he's still at 1, because I truly think he still deserves to be at 1. So, team of the week for week 3. We have 5 players in it. Quarterback of the week, Justin Herbert. Congratulations, you've gone from playing 3 quarters of football to being in week 3 team of the week.
You're no longer the holder. Well done, Justin. Go from holding for kicks to holding the Lombardi instead.
Running back 1 is Josh Jacobs. And there was no point last year where I thought that the Giants and the Raiders would be the first 2 teams in team of the week, but they are. Running back 2 is Travis Etienne. Everybody thinks I'm at half mast for Travis Etienne, but the guy has shouldered the load from Breda and returns kicks and is a weapon in the pass catching game. And is the reason that he won that game against the Browns. Wide receiver 1 is Will Fuller. And then it's really just a bevy of CPU guys that I think are class. Wide receiver 2 is Keenan Allen, who had a wonder grab and should have sent that game to overtime. Tight end 1 won't come as a surprise to anybody, is Zach Ertz, obviously. I don't think there's another tight end even remotely close this week. The flex position is Chris Carson, who Nick will attest had a really solid game. The defensive lineman is Montez Sweat of the Redskins. The Washington football team had 5 total team sacks. I think 2.5 of them were Sweats, as they really made Trubisky sweat throughout the day. Like I said, the offense he had 1 touchdown pass and he ran one in himself in a broken play, and other than that the points came on defense. The Washington D was actually pretty good, which lends more credence to how good Zach's result was against them. The linebacker of the week, this is so close because there hasn't been a Cowboy or a Cardinal in yet, and there really could have been, but it's Alex Anzalone for linebacker of the week, and the DB is Demarius Randall for picking off Barry B. Benson at least twice.
After he had a shit fit.
Players who didn't make the team of the week who were nominated.
How much was James Cameron up by the way?
I don't know, 20 something, maybe 90, somewhere between 18 and 22.
That would have been a wonderful choke job if James had just stayed the course.
Just stayed the course and actually choked it, yeah. Riley Ridley was nominated, didn't get in. Kellavon Chason nominated and didn't get in, and Jordan Hicks was so close. So close. You didn't even need to win the game, Stips. It's just whenever the seawall broke at the end and they scored 14 points in about 2 minutes, I find it really hard to put one of your defenders in, but he had a cracking game. So we're on to the Blazing 5, and we'll do this one at the end. So this is our 5 top games. Next week we're going to have Adam on before the end of this episode, actually.
Yes. Fucking love Adam being on.
Before the end of this, I'm going to tell you when you're all on, because I'm going to have you all on, and it's relatively close to your bye week, if not on your bye week. So many of you guys share buys, so it's really hard to get you spot on, but as close as I can. So Blazing 5, first of all, Giants at Packers. The not Vegas stat line on that is Giants by 8. Lambeau's a tough place to go. I like the Giants D. The Giants O is going to be tested because Rodgers, for all intents and purposes, should keep pace with him. I'm picking the Giants to win. Daniel?
I have the Giants by 14 because Zach hates Aaron Rodgers. I can't wait.
Fair. Dallas hosts Philadelphia. The not Vegas bet line on that is Cowboys by 10. Bear in mind they won by 14 in week 2. I feel like James, despite playing cover 2 and only being able to play cover 2 because his internet won't buffer any other coverages, he's seen Zach Ertz firsthand, and he's got footage there of Zach v Zach Ertz just cover Ertz, make him beat you other ways, and he
If you
won't
want
be
to know
able
what
to.
happens when Carson Wentz has to beat you other ways, watch the literal Giants Eagles game from Sunday. Like, it is
Yeah, it's pretty much everything.
fucking terrible. This guy struggled to beat Garrett Gilbert, or no, it was Ben DiNucci. Struggled to beat Ben DiNucci. Not a good player. Like, lovely guy, not a good player. Arizona.
No, no, no. I've picked the Cowboys. You got to give me your
Oh, I
Cowboys.
picked
So-
Cowboys by 4. I don't think Cowboys win any game by 10 this year. Arizona San Fran.
Yes, Arizona's playing the Niners. The not Vegas stat line on that is the Niners by 4, and I'm also taking the Niners.
No, Cardinals by 3, because if the Cardinals are 1-3, I genuinely don't know what I'll do.
But I took, what do you call it? I took the
We'll have to have a whip round in the podcast next week.
I took the Bucks. Whenever Adam took the Cardinals, everybody always bets for the Cardinals, and I bet with my head, and I'm generally right because the Cardinals don't tend to
Well, I
win.
bet with my
multiple in a row.
hope. I hope the Cardinals win.
Here, I have it Niners by 4. It's a one-score game. It's at home, and Murray's
Of course,
got
it's
some,
a one-score game. It's Arizona. Like, I mean,
and Murray's got
Stips
some
is-
new plays. This is my only indictment on the Cardinals. My biggest indictment, rather. Cardinals points scored, by the way, 13, 14, and 6. That totals to 33. Adams scored 45 against the Niners. So
Christ.
with these new play, you got some new plays, Stoops, but unless they're like kick 80-yard field goal, I am excited. I'm excited for the Cardinals, but I like money in my pocket, so I'm going to take the Niners.
Chicago at the Ralph. A blustery day at the Ralph.
Is there any other kind of day at the Ralph?
Gotta be Bears by 4.
The not Vegas line is Bears by 4, and I'm taking the Bears.
Bears by 4.
This is going to be a nasty defensive score line
Yep.
where neither team can score any points in O.
I think Niall.
The weather might be a factor.
Niall
It
does
suits
not,
Niall.
Niall does not pass more than one touchdown in that game because it's going to be a stinker. I think I think it's going to be the run game, and he'll maybe get a defensive touchdown or a kick return. But I think he's got enough. Niall has enough grit to just win that game out. Really,
Looking at the schedule, his next 4: Buffalo, Minnesota, Detroit,
it's probably
Dallas.
going to be very similar to his other NFC or his other FC's game against the Jets,
Yes,
where it comes down to that under 2 minutes. They will
This is
use
not
their
a-
timeouts, and it will be on Niall to then put points up.
this is not
I
a
think he will-
game
I think
for
he will.
Niall to try and figure the offense out.
No, I think Niall goes in there and wins a very close game, but I do think he wins it.
So,
Definitely.
Broncos v Oakland.
Oh, I can't
Game
wait
of
for
the
this.
week. The not Vegas stat line might surprise some. It's Raiders by 3.
It's in Denver, though.
I am taking the Raiders.
No, Broncos by 6, at least. I think Nick has come a long way, but I still think
Betting with my head for Arizona, betting with my heart for the Raiders.
Nick has come a long way, but I think he's still got a bit to go before he's beating James Cameron at home.
It's fair to say, though, that if he beats James Cameron a mile high, it's a coming out party for him.
If he beats James Cameron,
If he keeps it
Mile High,
close.
he's top of the West by 2 clear games and head to
And
head.
head to head, and the divisional record and
Yeah,
everything.
which
Like
is-
it's a lot.
Starting to look good.
Just for reference here, his last 2 games
That's
against
what
Denver.
I'm really enjoying the AFC West and the NFC East because it's just going to come down to it's either going to be not close at all if Nick wins this week and keeps winning. James Cameron will always be at arm's length from him. But if James Cameron can win this week, it's going to go down to the wire. And it's the same in the NFC East. If Zach just keeps doing what he's doing and just blows teams out, it's not going to be a conversation.
Just to
But
put
if
this in
James can pick
perspective,
things up, it's going to be. It could come down to who can keep their nerve, and I quite like that.
I have Raiders by 3, and Daniel has Broncos by 6. Is it?
Yeah.
His last 2 games against James Cameron were a 41-7 loss and a 38-7 loss.
Yeah, but Derek Carr has recovered from whatever wasting disease he had last year and has started actually throwing the ball more than 4 yards downfield to the fullback.
True, very true.
So now that Allen Robinson has taken over from Alex Ingold,
So in terms of the people coming on, we've got Adam coming on next week for week 4. He's on his bye. Week 5 will be James Earls. Week 6.
it's a hard week to talk about this week.
How do you mean?
Like, Adam won. We knew Adam would win. Niall won, but the offense wasn't really fixed. James Cameron's game was as wacky and weird, and I won in the end. Arizona lost. Yep. Dallas lost a PvP game. The Giants fucking blew out a divisional opponent. Oakland continued doing what they were doing, and Houston won close. Like, we might as well have just fucking simmed the week, and we could have wrote it. We could have decided the results.
That's literally how I would have written it
Yeah,
going.
that's pretty cut and dry this week, guys. You didn't really give us anything. Can somebody do something fucking exciting this week? Like James Cameron, B20 down to Oakland and come back. Or just give us something, please. Because we're at my least favourite point of the year, weeks 4 to 6.
Aye.
Because there's no real... Oh, what's their divisional record? Who knows? Everybody's played one divisional game. There's no MVP race. Because you're only 3 games in the season. I hate week 4 to 6. Week 7, it's sort of a telling week for teams. Are you 2 and 5 or are you 5 and 2? Mm-hmm. Week 8, trade deadline, and then boom, you're in the awards season.
Thanksgiving
and playoffs.
And, yeah,
it starts to get more interesting. Plus there's less buys. Like, look at that. We don't go... We have a bye in week 4, we have no buys in week 5, 2 in week 6, none in week 7, 3 in week 8. You know, the next couple of weeks are quite... Yeah, they're quite bye-week heavy, which I don't like.
So, I have everybody's schedule here, if I need to throw it up here quickly.
There shouldn't be a bye-week in Madden.
So,
they don't need rest. It's a computer.
Adam, you're on next week. Then it's James Earls in week 5, James Cameron week 6, Nick week 7, Stoops week 8, Niall week...
Stoops can be out of a job, but week 8 we might have Stoops permanently from week 8.
Niall in week 9, Zach in week 10, and then John in week 11. I think Niall and John are the only ones that are going to be on while they have a game, but being Super Bowl entrants, they should not mind that. Everybody else, I think we catch on a bye.
I'm very excited to have Adam on. I love having Adam on. I think Adam's great crack. And Zach as well. Zach was great crack last year. I'm really looking forward to having Zach back. Especially because Zach is on the week after. If we do it this way,
yep.
Dallas and New York play each other in week 9.
Mm-hmm.
If we can please try and make that the last game of the week and do the podcast just after it, maybe. You could have Zach coming on as for post-game reaction of his second game against Dallas, which would be nice.
Well, there's a chance that, just checking, Zach could be 6-0 in his division by then, because Zach doesn't have a divisional game after the bye.
How can you not?
That's so bad.
Zach doesn't have a divisional game in a double-digit week.
Yeah.
He plays all of them by week 9.
By week 9, he's played his 6 divisional games, and if he's won the 6 of them, he's practically... It's going to be really hard to motivate yourself down the stretch, because he's probably in by default.
That's actually class. They should, in the NFL every year, they should do that. One team should have to play all their divisional games weeks 1 to 6. I just think it'd be much better. Completely shite somebody up every year and just be like, yeah, 3 road divisional games and 3 home divisional games between weeks 1 and 6. I'm looking forward to having everybody on this year. It's nice now that we're mixing it up the next couple of weeks. The next couple of weeks are usually a bit boring, but we'll have people on. Games I'm really interested in seeing. Week 6, Arizona, New Orleans should not be the game it was last year.
But you know it will be.
No.
The worrying thing
was very close last year. I don't think it'll be very close this year. Dallas at Chicago in week 7.
What worries me for that Cardinals Saints game is that Adam has not only got a bye, but Cleveland, which is like a second bye, while Stoops is going to pull what little hair he has remaining out against 2 divisional opponents, then right into the Superdome.
See, that's where James Cameron should be excited, is that James Cameron has to play Stoops and Nick twice, whereas Nick has to play James Cameron twice and Stoops, plus Houston.
Yeah.
You know, he's also got John in there, and that could be... Obviously, James Cameron's already played Houston and lost, but...
Oh, no. That's to say, why is the schedule different, but it's not?
If Denver split the series with Oakland, and Nick loses to Houston, Stoops could very easily decide the West by which team he beats, or if he beats
just
both.
update the rest of this. Sorry.
Like, if you go back there to the schedule, you've got Nick loses to John.
Mm-hmm.
Nick beats James Cameron once. James Cameron beats Nick once. They'll both have 1 loss. It'll come down to the 2 Arizona games, which could be very, very interesting, especially with Nick playing his Arizona game in week 16.
Mm-hmm.
And if slipping up in week 16 means that if James Cameron beats the Jags, he could be in. And I'm very excited for them. The AFC West is probably my favourite division this year.
Is it weird with regard to the NFC East that James Earls won the NFC East so convincingly at 13-3, and we've just discussed by week 9 he might know that he's fighting for a wildcard spot?
Well, to be fair, Zach had never played Madden before.
Well, he has now.
I think that's a big thing to take into account. It's not like Zach was really poor in his first season and is now getting much better. Nick and Zach were not Madden players coming into this. They are now. I mean, I'm not
They've
saying
both won three in a row. They must both have
yeah.
sugar plumps in their head
They're
of
they
going
are
undefeated.
definitely fair play to them both as well because they must. You don't just naturally. They haven't just got better. They have been playing and putting work into it and building their rosters and stuff. So it's nice. That's my two favorite teams. I'd love to see. I don't think it'll happen because there's so much competition. But I'd love to see the Giants play the Raiders in the bowl because they both put a lot of work in to be good this year.
Giants Raiders in the bowl.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's not as hard to wish for as you think.
Oh, it is.
You
You've got to
might
get through. No, Adam and John are sitting there just
You-
waiting on somebody.
Your mistake was not mentioning which bowl. What if they were the Pro Bowl coaches?
Well, that could happen. Yeah, that would
Right.
be nice as well.
That would be class.
But again, it's just going to come down to Nick versus James Cameron and Zach versus Nile, probably. It's looking
fair.
like Arizona and Dallas are not going to be playing in divisional again. Just being honest. And if they are, it'll be as a wild card team going to Adam, more than likely, to be absolutely chewed up and spat out. Again, no offence. We don't say none of the stuff that we say on here is just to take the piss out of certain teams. We're just being honest that,
We calls it like we sees it.
there are very, very good teams in this league, and there are some not so very, very good teams in this league. And that's just how it is this season. Again, it changes year to year. You look at Nick and Zach.
Yeah, literally that's a poster of
I
wow.
don't think
look how much it
anybody
changes.
looked at Nick last year and thought, next year he'll be contending. And now he's undefeated after 3 games. So it can flip. It can flip very easily. Based on one thing, it can flip very easily on based on schedule as well.
True. Just ask Stoops, who everybody seems to think was terrible last year because he dropped from a winning record to not. But he went from 10-5-1 to 8-8, and his schedule was insane. He had to play. He lost. Was he lost last year? 8 games, and he lost to John and Adam.
Place to a first place and only dropping in 2.5 games.
You just need to ask Adam about it, about how well he fought against Adam in the head-to-head.
I'm excited for the head-to-heads this year. Some really good ones. Especially with Oakland being more competitive this year, gives us a couple of nice matchups there. But yeah, really enjoy. Well, mediocre. Kind of enjoyed this week. Don't really. I never really enjoy the first couple of weeks of the season because there's not really enough. You don't know what's a big game. At the same time, every game's a big game, but also nothing's a big game.
Now we play that
Unless
really
it's
fun bit of
CVP.
the week where we tell you who's in the playoff spots. As Daniel says, it's annoyingly early, but here it is. AFC.
Yeah, it's annoying because you have so many teams that are 2-1, and the thing
Aye.
that separates them is divisional record because some teams haven't played a divisional game yet.
Houston
it's-
and Baltimore are getting a bye. Oakland would host Tennessee, and the Jets would host Denver.
There, for example, if you look, Zach is top of his division.
Yep.
Sorry, Zach is the 1 seed.
And will be for
Because-
weeks if he keeps winning because of the divisional
Because
record.
New Orleans haven't played a divisional game yet.
So
yeah.
at the minute, the Giants
That's
and
interesting as well. It could be if Zach can get undefeated into the bye.
yeah,
Oh, Zach plays John. Adam doesn't.
yeah.
Does John throw that game to give Zach the 1 seed to try and stop Adam making the bowl? Well,
All I'm gonna
obviously
say
the
is-
answer is yes, because John's that sort of person.
At the moment,
But-
there are 3 teams or 3 teams in each conference that are 3-0 undefeated. Obviously you can only have 2 teams in a bye.
Yeah.
So 2 of these teams, one from each conference, are going to miss out. So you've got the Texans, the Ravens, the Raiders. One of them at the moment would be missing out in a bye, and then Giants and Bears are getting a bye, and Saints are the 3 seed. But they're all the same record, and one of them's going to miss out. James Searles and Stoops are a little cut adrift right now. James Cameron for a 5 seed will definitely still have his say on how the top 3 in the AFC finishes. Looking forward to that. So on Zach's point, I'm going to keep going back to this point. Zach said in week 1 that all player teams could make the playoffs. It's still
Some
possible.
people need to start picking their shit up.
I mean, six
Like-
six of the 8 teams are the 5th seed or better.
Dallas are missing out, and Arizona are
It's-
missing out, and also
Yep.
are Denver missing out? No.
Denver's a 5 seed.
Say again, yeah, but see, this is what I don't like. Cleveland and Pittsburgh are missing out to Denver because Denver's played a divisional game. They haven't.
Yes, that is
Not that
correct.
I'm saying Denver's not good enough to get in. It's just I don't like standings at this stage of the year. So I don't think they really reflect anything other than who's played divisional games and who's
Alright.
undefeated.
Shittest team in the league. Who is it? The Lions or the Eagles?
The Eagles, because they're going to have to play Zach and James.
The Lions have a hard enough time. The Lions have got to play Zach and James and Niall.
Yeah, but the the Eagles have to play Zach and James twice, and it's divisional losses.
Detroit has to play Niall twice, and it's one of them's a divisional loss.
If Philly can't beat Washington, then their season's over. If Philly don't beat Washington, then Philly won't have a divisional win all year.
Absolutely stunning me how blown open some of these divisions are right now. Like, I think Paddy Power even would suspend betting on the Giants winning the East, even at this early stage, because it's pretty monumental.
It's all going to come down to week 9. I don't see how James Earls recovers from a week 9 loss.
Yeah, if James was to play Zach tomorrow and James won, he's one game back. He's got a bit of a divisional boost.
Going into week 9, has James had his bye? He has, but let's ignore that. Going into week 9, say they both played 8 games, right? The Giants are 7-1, Dallas are 6-2. If James can win that and go to 7-2 and force Zach to 7-2, I think it's still wide open. But if Zach wins that and goes 2 clear games clear of him with divisional record and head-to-head over him, I don't see how James recovers from being 2 clear games behind Zach head-to-head. Is Zach going to drop 2 games second half of the season and James win out? Like, it's
what's scaring me. Just looking at the schedule, weeks 1 through 9. What's scaring me about this
is what I like though. I like the divisions like the NFC East.
James is 2 games behind, and he plays Niall in the same week that Zach's playing the Eagles again.
I don't think James Earls is worse than Zach.
Niall will decide who wins that division.
Zach could open next year with a first place schedule against Adam, and James Earls could open with 2 divisional games, and suddenly it could be the shoe on the other foot. Where Zach loses week 1, James Earls goes in a 4-game winning streak. This is what I think the NFC East. I really hope that Zach and James Earls stay as the Giants and the Cowboys for a long time, because I think it is going to be a year-to-year real divisional race, and it'll produce some great games. I'm really excited for it.
It's only ever once before, isn't it? It was just Matty with the Jags and now with the Texans is the only time we've had
really divisional. Matty won it every year.
But it's the only time we've gone back-to-back seasons with 2, because John peaked into Niall's division in the north and then left.
The only time we've really had a super competitive division with 2 player teams in it has been Niall and James Earls. James Earls won it, but Niall beat him twice.
Which just shows up both of them for the problems that they have. Niall couldn't beat enough CPU teams to win the division, and James
Niall did have a tough schedule.
Only beat CPU teams.
Because Niall had the first place schedule.
Don't talk about schedule. Niall played my Raiders and beat them. And beat the division winner twice, but just couldn't beat random CPU teams.
I know, I'm just saying it's nice to have a division with 2 player teams in it that you can maybe call this year in a couple of weeks' time, but you wouldn't be able to say confidently, oh well, of course he won it, he'll win it again next year.
Niall's going to decide the NFC East, because you're looking at week 9. What if James beats Zach in week 9?
The NFC East, yeah. I was going to say Stoops controls the AFC West.
No, but
because he plays them both.
If James goes to Zach and beats him in week 9, it won't really be worth that much if Niall's already beat James 2 weeks before it. Because James, Zach now goes on the road 3 weeks in a row. I think Green Bay, who we think he's going to beat, Washington, who we know he's going to beat, and Indianapolis, who haven't got to win yet, but Indy are tricky enough to play.
Zach seems to be allergic to divisional losses this year, which is good for him.
But, he's 3-0. There's just to put it into perspective, Zach has 3 divisional wins. There is no other division in football that has 3 divisional wins.
I think this works well for James Earls, to be honest, because he has to beat player teams now to win his division. Now you could say, oh, it could be a lot easier for him and he could have to not play player teams, but no offense, what's the point in going to the postseason if you can't beat player teams?
I don't know. Ask James Earls for the last 3 seasons.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that if James Earls can get a win over Zach and a win over Niall, you start to think, right, okay, James Earls beats Zach and Niall, and it ends up that Zach only loses to that Dallas game in Houston, goes 14-2. Zach's still winning the division, then at 5-1 in the division. So James Earls I would rather see James Earls win against Zach and Niall and go through the wild card. But you'd be going into the wild card with confidence that, okay, if I get a player team, I'm not definitely out. Whereas at the minute, if James Earls loses to Zach and Niall, he can still go 12-4, which is going to be a wild card, which is going to get him into the playoffs. But what's the point? You know, you go into the wild card knowing, okay, I'm probably going to have to go to Adam or Zach at some point, or Niall.
Gerald's has only ever missed the playoffs or been the 2 seed. So maybe it would suit him to not be the 2 seed, considering he's only got to get the 2 seed and go bust.
Schedule for me. Zach could kind of maybe do with, where's Chicago's schedule? Oh no, Chicago play New Orleans, but so I'm assuming Zach's losing to John and Adam, or Niall's losing to Adam. Okay, I'm
Right.
not saying it's definitely gonna happen. Just for conversation's sake, that happens. Then we get a really nice week 12 matchup. Zach versus Niall. Winner probably gets the 2 seed
That looks like it's going to be for the 2 seed.
because you're saying if they both beat James, they're both undefeated going into it.
I have
The
them both
real
beating
thing for
James.
Zach though is that if Zach wins it, he's a game clear of Niall. Niall then plays Adam the night like the week after.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. If Zach wins it, Zach's the 2 seed. If Niall wins it, he's not necessarily a 2 seed because he's got the
I
Adam
think
game.
he is in the same way because he then. So if he beats Zach, Zach has one loss. He has no losses. He gets a loss against.
You think Niall's going undefeated to week 12?
Yeah. So
Niall
you're
thinks he's
telling
losing
me
in week 9 out of the bye.
if Zach loses to Niall, yeah,
Yeah.
he has one loss. Niall has none. You're saying then, oh, it doesn't matter because Niall's going to lose the Adam. Zach plays Houston 2 weeks after.
Am I the only one that's looking at Giants Houston and I'm not just awarding it to Houston?
I think that's going to be John's warm-up playoff game, and I think Zach.
If
will
John doesn't take it seriously, Zach will fist him.
well, it really depends on what he got.
What mood John's in?
John can hide a lot of stuff in that game if thingy happens. If James Cameron has 3 losses,
Yes,
and
then
Nick
John
has
can
3
drop
losses,
that game
then
and not feel too bad
John
about
looks
it.
at that game thinking, I'm fucking 12-0. What is the point? You know, I'm 12-0. What's the point in going out and showing all my player stuff against Zach? Let's let Zach, a non-conference team, beat me. I dropped to 12-1. Nobody sees everything. Still getting the 1 seed. You know, there's no worry there. But no, I'm really excited for a couple of those big player games. I think this slate here, from sort of week 10 to week 16, or week 11, sorry, to week 16, there is 1, 2.
It's the player games in week
How many,
16
how many
that have
player
me.
games is there from week 11? There's 2. Week 12, there's 4. So there's 6. Week 13, there's 2.
There's
8.
1. You keep saying 2.
Oh,
It's
sorry.
1 game.
So go back to week 11. You have 1 in week 11. You have
2.
2 in week. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We've 8 player games in 5 weeks. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm very excited for that. Plus, there's no guests in the podcast that week as well. So we're
I
gonna
don't
have a
know.
lot
The
of time
podcast guests are done around
we're
Thanksgiving.
going to have a lot of time to break the games down as well. That's
Unless,
gonna-
like Daniel says, any of you have been sacked.
Oh, yeah. If
then
any-
you're welcome
if
on.
anybody's out of a job, just do a John Gruden and just do media. Just don't worry about coaching. But yeah, there's going to be 8 player games in 5 weeks. That's very
Delicious.
exciting. I'm looking forward to that. Some
Right.
big games as well.
So the last thing I just wanted to finish with, it'll take me 20 seconds and then we're out of here, is everybody's record since week 1 last year. So week 1 last year is when Nick, Zach and James Cameron joined the league. So Houston and New Orleans are 18-1. Dallas and Denver are 14-5. Chicago is 13-6. The Giants are 11-8. Stoops is 9-10.
Obviously.
And
To
Nick,
go 10-10 this week would be the most Stoops thing ever. What's going to happen next week? Fuck knows.
and the Raiders, Nick's Raiders are 6-13. It does seem to be that you're in pairs. Stoops and Nick are the only ones that haven't won double-digit games. Zach and Niall are above 500 but aren't telling anybody about it. Dallas and Denver are above 500, and obviously Adam and John have lost 2 games between them. PvP records are quite interesting as well. That's John is 2-0, Adam's 3-1, James Earls is 4-3. So it is a myth that he can't win player games. They're there in front of you. Denver's 3-2, Chicago is 0-2, the Giants are 4-3, the Cardinals are 1-2, and the Raiders are 0-4. So only the Bears,
The Raiders
and
haven't won a player game.
only the Bears and the Raiders
Oh,
haven't won a player
I'm
game
even
in the
more
last 2
excited
years.
for them versus Denver now.
Right.
But yeah, I do see Denver taking it purely on experience. One team hasn't won a player game and won 6 games in 2 seasons. James Cameron title game last year. At home. Surely got to be the favourite.
I can't just pick favourites though. That'll get boring.
That's what I'm doing.
You can't say you're picking favourites and then you're taking Arizona.
Woo! All aboard the fucking hype train for Arizona.
Oh, I cannot wait.
Kyler for MVP.
I really hope when I end this podcast in
Probably
about
not.
35 seconds
Every,
that
I hope it happens every week and everybody just goes, I'm playing now. No,
Yeah.
I'm playing now, then I'm playing after.
everybody blows up being like, I'm playing now.
And we've got to do a podcast again tomorrow.
Right, I'm gonna get
Please,
the game.
nobody. Can we not finish this week before Sunday evening? Because I'm not doing another podcast on Monday. Fair warning.
We are if it's finished by Sunday evening.
Are we fuck? I'm busy tomorrow in Red Zone on Sunday. No, and on the Premier League's free again.
That is a massive
We've
danger.
defeated the Tories. There's no pay-per-view anymore, so you can watch Premier League for free. So I'm watching 10 Premier League games plus the NFL this weekend, plus some college football. Please, nobody. Whoever, is there a PvP game this week? There is. Nick,
There is.
Nick and James Cameron, I will pay you to not play until Sunday night or Monday. Please. Because I just do. Oh, there. Adam's off on Monday, so we can do the podcast on Monday. James Cameron, you're a wee shite. I absolutely hate you.
Bloody hell.
But you already knew that, to be fair. That's nothing new.
Okay, so I have access to the season 4 stats, so I'm going to go nuts here prepping
Can you
next
show me the
week's podcast.
schedule for when people are on?
I can. Would you like me to?
Oh, yeah.
Right, I'm trying to end the podcast.
Denver
here.
in particular. What week are Denver on? Week 6?
Denver are on in week 6. Their bye week.
I hope Nick tanks him and the Bills shag him as well and he's 2 and 3. That'll be great. Well done, James. Half your wins came in overtime against Cleveland after you bottled it. I can't wait. Even to be honest, even if he's 4 and 1, I'm still gonna fucking get right into him over. So James, I was for the first time in NFL history to play the AFC title game week 2. That was good, yeah. Look forward to seeing John on Media Week. Look forward to seeing James in Pro Bowl week.
So, you mean
Bitch.
You mean Black Monday? So, he's been no Joy Taylor, as you can hear.
Wanker. I actually hate him.
Uh,
By the way, everybody go on Instagram. He did a heated banana food thing the other day. Like an absolute fanny. He did a big burning banana. Like, just what an absolute dick. Right,
Stoops is playing tomorrow, and already I cannot wait.
so Monday.
So Monday.
In a narrow loss to the Niners.
Woo! Right, see you then. It's been a blast. I am digging this new format. Fantastic. Love you all.
It's much better for me talking shit about people. I like
Get
it.
into the chat now. And Jamie, can you pull up the chat and see who plays next?
I don't know who's playing next.
Fuck you, Jamie.
Stips is playing, but nobody's actually put their playing today.
Right, peace
Although
out.
we've never done a podcast that finishes before like 10 o'clock at night and nobody's went, right, I'm playing right now.
Right.
I assume at 5 half the league plays.
Games, 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 games,
See you later,
games,
guys.
games, 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 games.